Welcome to the Whole Child Sleep podcast, where we help families nurture dreams and raise wholeness. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Whole Child Sleep podcast. I'm your host, Myra Hartsine, and today is a Q&A day. Today, we also have a special guest, Flora McCormick, who will be helping tackling the question from Rebecca. Welcome, Flora.
Thank you.
Rebecca asks, curious about your take on our situation. I have a just turned 4 and 2-year-old, and my newborn is a month old. Sleep has been such a struggle since the baby came. 2+ hours to fall asleep at night, major rest time protesting for the 4-year-old, and my 2-year-old is exhausted in the day way earlier than she should be. Should I shorten naps, later bedtime, wait out the post-baby regression? I'd rather shorten nap and delay bedtime if possible. Yes, that's a great question, Rebecca. Laura, what would you recommend here?
Well, most parents that I talk to are starting bedtimes after kids past their kind of ideal sleep window. And so I definitely think I would not be doing later sleep time or bedtime, but I'll leave that to you. You probably know that more expertise more than me. I mean, there's a lot of transition here. You're 4 and 2-year-olds adjusting to baby. So a bit of, I'm curious about the protesting rest time, if that's a little bit related to some protest of being away from you and knowing you're going to have more time with the baby while they're gone. And so I would just wonder about some thoughts of how to meet the need while also holding the boundary. So I do think it's important to have that kindness and firmness at the same time. So if you want the expectation that there's going to be quiet time, whether the child naps or just takes a break in their room to give you a little breather, hold firm to that and don't feel guilty. Know that there can be a little bit of extinction burst or what we call kick the vending machine behavior. Like they may be pushing. But if you stay firm and kind on your boundary that, whether you sleep or you just take a break in there, I'm going to have you take some time in your room, for a little midday break, they will adjust to that. So I would just want to enforce for you to just push through that resistance. And then in terms of kindness side of that is to experiment a little bit with naming what feelings might be a part of that resistance. Like, I wonder if sometimes it's hard for you with the changes that we've had in our family. And that's, really normal. And there's still enough of my love to go around. How about let's make sure we have a plan that when you're done with your rest time, we're going to play this game together, or we're going to go to the park all together, or we're going to have a dance party together. Whatever's realistic in your life of all the things required in having a newborn along with 2 and 4-year-olds.
Beautiful. To go along with that, for your 2-year-old you mentioned was already overtired when bedtime comes up. I think that, like Flora mentioned, creating a rest period during the day and allowing, or possibly even a nap, if you could even squeeze in maybe a little car nap, that may help break that overtired cycle. And then from there, you can begin more easily implementing those boundaries when they're not so limbic and reactive. So I hope that is helpful, Rebecca. We wish you all the best with your 3 little ones. And thank you so much for your question. Thank you, Flora, for your input as well.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening today. Tune in next week, and we'll talk to you all later. Thank you for listening to the Whole Child Sleep podcast. For references to articles discussed in this podcast or for evidence on the topics that we've discussed on this podcast, please look in the description below, or you can find the articles linked in our blog at curesleep.us. I want to give you an idea of what you can expect in terms of structure of this podcast moving forward. You can expect 1 podcast a week, and we will cover a topic for 2 weeks. The first week, you can expect the podcast to be more educational and informational. The following week will be more of a Q&A covering the same topic. If you have a question that you would like us to answer during the Q&A podcast, please send them in at 406-551-4083. And if you've found this podcast to be helpful, we ask that you share it. We would love to reach more tired families. We also ask that you subscribe and like and give us a 5-star review. This also helps us reach more tired families. We hope you have a beautiful day, and we will talk to you next week. By listening to this podcast, you understand and agree to the following. The content of this podcast offers the opinions of Myra Hartsine and her guests, and it is not intended as medical advice. It serves as an informational purpose. For personalized and medical concerns, consult your healthcare professional. The views and opinions in this podcast are our own and don't represent our employees or affiliates. The views of the guests in this podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect that of Cure Sleep Group. Our podcast and website are not for legal purposes, such as establishing a standard of care or expert witness testimony. We don't guarantee the accuracy of statements or opinions. We appreciate your assistance in maintaining content accuracy. If you find errors in our podcast or blogs, please reach out via email to support@curesleep.us. This podcast is owned by Cure Sleep LLC and presented by the Whole Child Sleep Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.